Welcome. Thank you for tuning in Neptune Knives. This is a huge, wide portion that hopefully will prevent bending, but it's just something you have to consider. Now, what's this flaw to this production level frame lock that doesn't fail is that, of course, it's going to wear out that corner, and eventually, of course, that's going to wear out because you have a point touching something, rubbing, rather than a flat, large surface rubbing. So all that pressure and all that force is being taken on a little corner, such as like basically that little corner right there in between. Let's see if I can show. Basically, there was that corner right in there, right there. If I was picking at it with my nail. So now that method is safe. So then if you look at those, nevertheless, you should have a safety. Now a liner lock. Now people think so. Okay. So frame locks, okay. Now also note on the military is an exception, and military we're going to go into the good category in a second. But now let's say, for example, we had, okay, the Legos are here to represent this idea, and I'll perhaps go over at the very end. Now you have liner locks. Okay, now, for example, the Valentine. I believe that with time, the Valentine will have the same problem and have lock rock. I don't believe, and I know the cold steel, if you watch the video, doesn't fail. And neither does a Bob Tanto because a Bob Tanto bends. And I've had a PPT by Spiraco and the lock bar bent. And the reason why it bends is actually a good thing, okay? Now liner locks, if you look at this, like Emerson, he uses liner locks, okay? They're titanium liner locks, so there's not much I can say about that because I actually don't really have one right to test and to beat up right now. But I can only speculate. But this is the thing, if you look at this titanium liner lock, there's a big difference between the Fantoni and Valaton Fantoni liner locks and the cold steel and Lum liner locks. And see if you can see where it is. Okay, this lock bar goes far down. The bend starts way down here and it goes. Same thing this one. Large, long gap. Long lock bar moving. Look at this one. It's like a stout, very, very extreme, quick bend. Same thing with this. And what happens is then that's what you have to look for. On these, when it bends, the actual bar will flex. The Lum bar will flex like this. Instead, it'll go like this. And there's the more likelihood that, just like on the cold steel knives, it'll bend and bend that way. Now, is that dangerous? Now you have to look at a liner lock and you have to make sure that the construction of it has a tight space around the blade tang, so that if it does go all the way to the right, it doesn't push in between the blade tang and then let the blade slide out and close. It should, if it gets stuck in that far right corner, it's stuck there. And then you have to make sure of that. Will your knife be okay after? Your lock bar will be bent. You'll have to possibly unbend it. I mean, you'll have to debate that. But will it fail? No, it'll just probably bend on you. And then we're going to show that right now. Do you see it bend, people? Okay, look, it's straight, it's bending. Straight, bending. You can see it flex. That's a good thing, because it may flex and flex ultimately that way, because if you have to look at it like this, the force is not just, the force is kind of going like this and meeting that way. And because of that, the angle that it creates, because of that quick bend over from a short distance. You know what I'm saying? While on this knife, you see, the bend starts down here, so it's not as much, while this angle is more because it starts up here. You know what I'm saying? It's like the same, but when you move it up, it has to go like that to meet the same spot. So this is the correct way to have a liner lock. Now, and you can even see there's a screw down here to make sure that this part never separates. And on cold steel, they have a this cold steel has a special. Well, I showed you in the last video. Now that gets into the next point that's why the best knives, the custom ones, and it's not always guaranteed depending on the maker. What makes those better? Let's do this, okay? So now if you look at this thing, let's see if I can flick it. Okay, there we go. Now, okay, you can see there is an angle. Okay, first of all, this is the Super Beast prototype, number 1 of 11 ever made. And only 1 was available to public. The other 10 were all for a special Navy team, a SEAL team. So this was designed with that function in mind. This is no prettiness to this. This is just pure function. Okay. Now Jim at 3 Sisters Forge. Okay, the doctor. He's a doctor. he was a doctor, but the point is, he had talked about this, that the blade tang and the lock bar face have to be, this lock bar face has to be at an angle. And because it is a frame lock, and there, you know what I'm saying? Rather than the lock bar actually bend at that angle, that surface then is ground down a little bit to help kind of create the angle that this one meets the back of the blade tang. It's that dang tape on the back of it. Okay? So that is what a custom knife maker would do. And that would take a lot of, how you say, mating and basically like matching them up. So you can see then like some of the frame locks that don't fail, now why they don't. Now we're saying like, okay, that bend, okay? Now the other thing though then you have to look for is this. Now this is when it's done right. Now look at these frame locks right here and see if you tell the difference between the Sebenza, okay? Here's the Sebenza. I want you to look at that line that cuts the lock bar. Look at where it hits the pivot, okay? Okay. About the same. Okay. Now look at it. See how far back? Now, okay, this is an exception. The Spydercos are exceptions, and they're very unique designs on those two. But let's go to the best of the best, okay? Of all my knives that are frame locks, all of them to me, I do not trust other than these three right here. These are three of the ones I trust. In terms of refinement and working. I trust the Striders, you know, but they wear out and you have to, you know, remember graphite lubricant, you know, preserve that lock bar, you know, and this knife too, because it's custom, you know, but it doesn't have safeties. These have safeties. This one possibly would have a flipper, basically copying all the facts that I said about the M1, but doing the lock bar the proper heavy duty way, which is, you see, it covers the back of the lock bar all the way to behind the pivot. And that's what it is. And when that happens, even though it's more flush, you can see what it is, what it's doing is, you can see it sits right behind it. So it's not being pushed by this, it's not being pushed any way. It's actually sitting right behind it. You see? It's sitting right behind the blade. Rather than, like, and that's what something you have to look at now. Why then the military doesn't fail? Because if you actually look at it, you look at a military and you think, oh, okay, you know, that's the lock bar, you know? Okay, no. Because if you actually look at the overall profile of the military, you see, the blade starts over here. This is all curved. So you actually, what you need to look at is look at it as if it was like this. It's already on the other side of this lock bar. Pushing this lock bar in that way, especially with the gap. So that's why it doesn't unlock. And it's solid because they have that stainless piece. Now, the problem with the military, before you guys think the military is awesome, is this is still a horrible tactical knife because of this aspect. Okay, because of this. If you're holding the knife, and this is even more worse if it's in your left hand, okay, and you go to stab something and, see? Because this is the next thing to avoid. Avoid frame locks that have cutouts. You may think it's nice, but there's a reason why Terzula never does it. And he's a tactical, you know, the tactical godfather, whatever. Hinder doesn't do it either. You don't do that. You know, Combative, thank God, didn't do it too. Okay? Fox military knives, the Deimos, doesn't do it either. This is why the PPT is no good. Is because when the lock bar is exposed, it's the thing that you're holding. So if you do a motion this way to slash, but perhaps something pushes down or your arm goes up or forward, it just unlocks. Thank God it has a safety, but no good. Should never have a cutout. So now, is the military G10 with the liner lock, now that's the military you got to own. Long time EML thought the best military would be M4 with a titanium handle. We'd swap out the blade into a titanium handle. No. It would be the liner lock version, but the liner lock still sticks out. It still has that cutout right here. You can reach the liner. So you got to shave that liner down like I did on my Lum. Now my Lum, the ultimate liner lock to me, it's like I said, to me it was tactical light. I liked it because I like outdoors and I like the versatility of this blade. But still, I admit that that is not the most strongest lock. Now, Sage 2 is an interesting thing because Sage 2 has this extreme cutout, and there was that mention if you watch the other video what they did to that surface. What that they did to that surface helped them mate. You just watch that video. Regardless, when this one is about to unlock, you can see. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can tell this, but. Okay, you're gonna have to trust me on this. Go home and try this, okay? Alright, at home do this. This, because it's cut out, it bends that way. It bends so it doesn't go out that way. It kind of actually goes kind of like this and slightly out like that, and that's fine. And funny enough, this one, though it has that cutout, this one actually is very safe to hold and not disengage, but still possible. Still, but it's because it's thin, you're holding most of it, you see? So, but it's still, you know, but it is better than this military for sure. I actually trust this as one of my tactical knives for sure. Okay? You just have to hold it. You have to own one. Just, it is. Now, so finally what we leave off now is locks that aren't frame locks at production level. Those are the better options. When you're at a production level knife, you need to look at ultimate compression lock is awesome, okay? Because this knife is stronger than Emerson. This knife, the blade breaks before the handle or lock ever disengages, and it still has a safety. Better than Emerson because it has a safety, okay? Then you look at this too. This bolt lock, stronger than the back lock, because this one actually wedges a bolt. I'll show in that video. This one wedges a bolt right into it. It's not like this where the lock bar clips up. This one actually just slides right in a pin. So when you have to look at that. You know, these are underrated knives, the Sage 3, perhaps, you know, even the Framelock 2. The Framelock 2 is a better lock at a production level than this knife. Okay, you want to get a custom knife with a frame lock, and you want to get, if you're going to have frame lock, you know, that's why the Hinder Flipper is so popular. You know, you want choils, you want to avoid these cutouts. You want to also have the understanding that only on the best, most expensive knives that you're going to find the proper mating. And then second best would be liner locks that have a high angle, meaning that bend is very short, very strong, at the same time a short lock bar, and it sits inside the handle to where you can't touch that liner by accident. Then those are the next best. And then right after that comes frame locks that use that corner only and push, and when you pressure it pushes the lock bar in, like Striders and Fox knives, and those, that's a good, you know, a good enough, but understand old fashioned, you know, where it can wear out. And then at the bottom are any frame locks that don't have these methods, and bear in mind that please people, just it's for your own safety. Okay, worst, my least, I prefer to the best locks. Okay.